nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, please.
Jason Tron.
Here.
George Favette.
Here.
Victoria Helander Heiser. Robin Cleek. Here. Wes Pullen here. Matt Jacobs.
Here.
Sonali Patel.
Here. 7 present, 0 absent. Anybody from the public wishes to comment?
It's not on.
Don? There you go.
Yeah, now it's on.
Michael Shank, 587 Central Park, Vernon Hills. I just want to put my 2 cents in. Sometimes I do this too often, but after the zoning commission meeting last week, it didn't obviously look like that. It went that well. I just implore you guys to really open up that line of communication with the village, okay? The building commissioner, the village engineer. I don't know if you are, I know you have, but just keep that line of communication open because we've all, and you've all worked too hard to get where we're at today. And even though the zoning commission is like an advisory group and their decision can be overturned by at least 5 votes on the committee of the whole, which is next week. I know there's probably going to be discussion on this topic that next week. So if you guys are, I know I'm going to be there, but available to be there also. It's very important. Like I said, I don't know if it's happening. It might be happening. Just please keep that line of communication open. Work together to figure out what the best avenue is to get this job, get those shovels in the ground, hopefully in the spring. Okay?
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Anybody else wishes to comment?
Staying the night, Mike?
What's that?
Are you staying up there tonight?
No, I was
Following the rules.
okay.
Chairs are more comfortable.
Hi, I'm Kim McAuliffe. I'm just here. I wanted to thank everyone, especially Dr. Friedman, Matt. I really appreciate the support that you guys gave to me during our battle with saving the deaf and hard of hearing program to stay at.
Friendly battle.
Yeah, friendly battle, yeah. I don't mean it in a negative way. To stay at the John Power Center building. I'm sure you guys are all aware, but the program is going to stay on the first floor. We're unfortunately losing some space. The transition program, which is the 18 to 22-year-olds, are moving into the second floor, but we've been told that the resources we're not losing. And I just wanted to come in and make sure I said thank you to you all in person because several other parents from Powers, they reached out to their home districts and they did not get the support that you guys have all given to me. So I just wanted to thank you for that and just let you know I feel really lucky to be part of this district and have all of your support. So thank you.
So nice of
Thank
you
you,
to come.
Kim.
Thank you. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishes to comment?
Good luck following Matt. I mean,
Lauren. She's the only one.
Remember this moment.
Julie, too, actually.
Julie, you didn't lose your voice. Come on.
Okay. So the next item is actually, let's go with the superintendent's report first.
Okay.
So this is for the,
Before we get into the consent agenda, I wanted to just make a couple of comments. Reflective of the calendar, we're going to approve the recommendation of the administration for the 2019-20 calendar. In the calendar, we have removed any recognition of any religious holiday. So we are not designating specific days as religious holidays. However, keeping in mind, and we have to be very open about this, is that there are a few days in October, I believe, where there will not be any school. We are not recommending classes due to a holiday. Now, the reason behind that is purely a professional reason. We know that we will not be able to staff all of our classrooms on those 2 days with substitutes or with anyone and have a reasonable and expected educational experience for our kids on those days. We just don't have enough people to do that. So thusly, though not having school on those 2 days is a reflection of our inability to have a full complement of staff covering every position. So that is the motivation. We are a-religious, so to speak. We are not designating anything in the way of any religious holiday. Just thought we'd let people know, since the Board of Education received several emails lobbying for specific days to be holidays. And we certainly understand and really have no problem with people asking for that. The problem for us is we really do have to make sure we have qualified individuals in front of every classroom full of kids. There's no compromise on that. And when we know we can't do that, we cannot have school on those days, as we may see in the weather coming up in the next few days. So those were the big comments. Joe and I had just talked that we are going to probably send a notice out canceling after-school activities tomorrow. Joe's on duty. He gets to do that
Yeah,
tomorrow.
fun.
He gets to be the hatchet man. And we're going to...
We are having school tomorrow, but
Yes,
we'll
we are having
cancel
school.
after-school activities.
visual.
And then we're also going to make the decision about Wednesday very early, and we'll get that note out, but even before the end of the school day, so that teachers, kids, and parents can all make plans.
Yes, so we have 2 students in the audience who are privileged to inside information. And so the first one's in the neighborhood to know. So we will diligently watch and talk with our neighbor districts. We are in groups with Mundelein High School and with Vernon Hills Libertyville High School District feeder districts, and we'll make collective decisions, as we always do, so that we're all working on the same wavelength as far as the notification for closing schools. We'll do that as early as we can so we can give parents, and those parents watching, I think, will get the opportunity to at least have a heads up in the way of finding childcare and coverage for their children. The key is keeping everybody safe.
Can I ask a question on that note?
Sure.
For our students, especially that rely on us for meals and stuff like that, on these snow days, is there anybody checking on them or making sure that they have a warm place to stay if we shut due to the cold weather? I know not everybody's parents can necessarily stay home just because they're stuck home, so.
I really don't know. It's the individual building that actually probably keeps track of the neediest students. And if there's a food issue, we'll support it.
Okay,
And they're given the autonomy in each building to take care of things like that.
okay,
So I would assume that they're proactive about that.
okay.
Our principals are really on top of these things.
Yeah, and I know some that go out and like do house checks and stuff, but
Mhm.
if it's not like a matter of policy, I just want to make sure.
Well, we'll let them know that, do anything they can to help those situations.
Thank you.
Question on the staffing of the no school days in September and October, where no school days that happen to fall on a religious holiday. You said that we'd have a hard time having a full staff. What percent do you think would not be able to show up or would not show up?
Close to
I
20%.
think 20.
Okay, and can I ask how that was determined?
It was just an arbitrary survey
Okay, so it was a survey of the staff as to.
of the staff by the administration. We did not survey the staff. We did not ask people's religious preference. Again, we are not getting into that.
That's what I'm
So,
trying to understand.
educated guess.
How you know and what numbers are you using to say we can't staff 20%? So, all right, thank you.
That's it.
That's it? Okay. Before I get into a bit more of details of certain reports, one of the things is we need a representative to do the Press 99. We decided we were going to do a rotating So Joe and Bobby, and we need one person to do the Press 99 with them. It's about 200, 300 pages of this time because there's a 5-year review tagged onto it. So do I have a volunteer for Press 99?
It's not as bad as it sounds.
This is 500.
We will zip
At, like-
through it's,
I'll do it.
Okay,
thanks.
Thanks.
Wes.
You're welcome.
so
Good. Bobby, we can plan that within the next couple of weeks.
Snow day, board meeting, and press.
okay. The other thing was Ed Red representative. Do you want to talk a bit more about it? Because we've never had one. I get the information about it, but we've never had an Ed Red representative. So
The director of the EdRed Association, EdRed is a lobbying group for education. It is comprised of mostly school districts in the northern suburbs, the western suburbs, DuPage County, and a few in South Cook County, mostly a little bit in North Cook County. And all of these districts collectively have worked together to hire a lobbyist called the executive director and a small staff to make the districts aware of all the political ramifications that certain bills down in Springfield would have locally. They've done a really good job. They alert us when a bill is on the floor that may be excess damage to a school district or cause us another mandate with no funding. They do a really good job of keeping us up to date as to legislation that's moving through in Springfield. Right now, there's serious legislation moving through to roll back the calendar freedom that we just gained and to put that calendar freedom back to the way it used to be, where we won't have any autonomy on days such as snow days. So we've been a member for quite a few years, but we haven't had a representative attend meetings. Tonight is their legislative lobby meeting and dinner at the O'Hare Marriott, and they usually get 300, 400, 500 people there. So if we were to take a more active role, and Sarah Hartwick, who is the executive director, stopped by, and she really kind of pleaded with us to take a more active role by designating someone from our board to be the representative. You wouldn't have to go to all the meetings. They're during the day and they're in Park Ridge and Maine South High School. But at least to be the conduit for information from EdRed, and it will help us. I've been a part of this organization for a long time and attended all their functions, and they have made a difference on a lot of times when certain bills that could put a real crimp in our style are floated out there, and we're made aware of it so that we can marshal the support of the legislators. And we have a whole lot of new legislators who have come in now. We met them on Friday. They met the superintendents of Lake County, and they're very eager to listen to us. And let's take advantage of that. So this would mean designating a board member as the EdRed representative. We would then turn that person's name into EdRed, and they will be invited to all the meetings. You don't have to go to everything, but there might be some things that are very important for us, and especially this new legislation to turn back the clock on the freedom to create your own calendar. So I would say it's not a bad thing. Shouldn't eat up all your time. Should be a positive experience. But again, someone has to be available to do that.
I'd like to just reinforce Mark's comments. I had a personal experience in my district when I was superintendent in Wilmette, Avoca District 37. I literally got a call one morning from the director of EdRed, and a bill was about to be passed that Speaker Madigan had slipped, an extra little thing in there. Nobody knew about it. She happened to see our name on it. It would have gravely hurt our district financially if that had gone through. And she gave me a personal call. And boy, that's an example of what Mark's talking about. So I would really love it too if somebody could be our connection there.
It would also be nice if next year we looked at our board meeting schedule and the conflict on the same night, we moved that board meeting to another night so that all of you can attend as a group. It's actually a really nice night.
It's a good evening.
I'd be willing to volunteer.
Great.
You go.
Thanks,
Okay.
Vicky.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to, but there's no guarantee I'll be here after April.
That's when you should volunteer. You
Go to one
look
meeting.
good, but you don't have to follow through, maybe. Okay.
So one of the reports that I wanted to give to the community as well as kind of get into one of the action items based on that was the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that happened on Wednesday. Abe attended. We had Carrie Van Sant from DLR, Don Dixon from Gewalt, Tom McGrath from LAMP, and Lynn, who is a traffic engineer with I don't know her last name, but Lynn from she's a traffic engineer with Gewalt. They were our main experts out there. Jason, West, Matt, and I attended it as supporting them. In that meeting, what we were doing was to get an okay for the ordinances because that land is owned by the park district and the village has to give okay because it is a special permit to get a school building built on that land. So this happened, they had always said, okay, we've gone through design phases. They've been extremely involved. The building commission, as well as the civil engineer or the engineer, Dave Brown at the village, he's been completely involved. So the main issue with that building is not the building or anything of that sort, but putting that building at the location that it is puts traffic on Aspen. Actually, it doesn't actually put traffic on Aspen as such, because all those kids are already with us. They are here already. They are just moving from our existing schools into that building, into the kindergarten building. So about 125 kids from Elementary South, 75 from Aspen, 75 from Elementary North, 75 from Town Line. Those are the kids that are going to move there. So those kids are already here. So the traffic flow and the number of cars that are going there are already on the roads between Hawthorne and Aspen and 60. But they did not want it on Aspen, so we had engineered with collaboration and guidance from the village of having that road go on Phillips, which goes in front of Victory Center. The problem with that was it was okay till some time ago, and now it is not okay. So when the civil engineers and stuff, they did another road which goes through Atrium, which is the back of the Victory Center through the parking lot. It is still an access road one way for us. It doesn't take, but this allows for stacking of the cars in the parking lot of Sullivan. So it becomes, if the Phillips access road had been there, there wouldn't have been any stacking of cars in the Sullivan parking lot. But this road does cause it. So the park district is not very pleased with this solution. But this was the solution the village said they would be happy with. I don't know where the communication kind of fell apart because the Planning and Zoning Commission was not aware that this was coordinated and collaborated and done with the village's blessing and guidance. So they said no to it, their main concern being the parking on that road. So we are going to go back on February 5th to the committee of the whole meeting and we are going to represent it. And we are hoping that, and all the village officials will be there as well as the administrators, and we will sort this thing out as to, because this was done under their guidance to take traffic, some of the cars off of Aspen. But when they say these are not new cars that are going in, these kids are already here. If those cars are already on our roads, whatever the number of cars will be, they are just getting diverted in a different manner to get there. So based on that, one of the things out of that is for that kindergarten building, that site has wetlands. And we need to buy credits for those wetlands to mitigate those wetlands to be able to put a shovel in the ground. So.
Very good. Project.
Those don't look like wetlands.
Those look like wetlands.
That's the snow.
Very good. So just to restate the background, I know we've got a new board member. So since 2016, the site's been considered for the kindergarten building. Many alternatives were explored during the development of both EAMPs, including the most recent one that was approved. There are benefits to this location. We can save taxpayers $5 million by not having to reconstruct an additional gym. So there's efficiencies with that. The Park District, they built that gym with us in mind. So that's $5 million waiting for our school. The proximity to the library, programmatic benefits, being right next to the library is a great plus. There's an opportunity to offer kindergarten level HAP. One of the drawbacks to the after school program is that you've got kindergartners with sixth graders, fifth graders, older kids. Here we can have a kindergarten specific level for that program, which currently has a waiting list. So that was the key element for the Park District with this IGA. There are a number of overall other efficiencies for our school operations. The kitchen is just across the street at Middle School South. The logistics with maintenance personnel, therapists, our staff, being within a close proximity is advantageous for us. Now, for the last 18 months, we have worked with the village to explore multiple options. To date, with our civil engineer, we have spent $77,000, about $54,000 over what we planned to expend as it relates to civil engineering services to explore various site options. They included a feasibility west of Middle School South and Aspen, that back area. We looked at the feasibility of bridging traffic back there. Our civil engineers then looked at Phillips Road, took that to the fullest extent, pretty close to 95% CD with that option, thinking that that was the option. And now we're back to just south of Victory Center with the Phillips Road option being nixed. We're now dealing with the south of Victory Center and just a drive connection there. And the draw side for the Park District is that the queuing was supposed to take place on Phillips Drive, which was okay with everyone. Everyone was pretty content with that. And the drawback now is that the queuing is happening on the Park District property, which I'll get into in my next slide. But just to restate what Ms. Patel stated, these aren't 300 new kids coming into this area. It's not 302 kids and associated traffic being injected into this area. It's existing. Inarguably, we're improving the traffic here, and I'll just demonstrate again. You know, we've got 69 kids coming from Elementary North, 76 from Town Line, 60 from Aspen, and 97 from Elementary South. So traffic that would have been on Aspen, the enrollment in these schools is now decreasing by these amounts, right? And by putting them in a separate school with an offsetting start and end time, we are minimizing the traffic on Aspen as a result. This is an improvement to the current traffic situation. And we hope to really stress this at the February 5th meeting. I think it was missed. The other elements of concern, our takeaways were that the director of Victory Center, they were concerned about their scheduling, the shift change at 3 p.m., what we're proposing as it relates to start and end time for this school would mitigate that concern. We have a follow-up conversation planned for tomorrow to address that. And it is my recommendation that we agree to support the Park District in moving the skate park. It would be an $80,000 commitment for this school district. But keep in mind, they didn't have to, but the Park District did commit to about $250,000 to build a playground for this school. And if that's what it takes to take one more element of concern off the table, I think it's worthwhile. At the end of the day, it does help us, and it helps the Park District. It helps the entire community. Queuing is no longer in that center lane. It is in that far lane, making it more operationally efficient. Lastly, we do have a meeting scheduled on January 30th, which is Wednesday. Notwithstanding the cold, we will be here to meet with them. It'll be the village engineers, the village director, the interim director, assistant director, the Park District and library, as well as myself. We will have a meeting to make sure that we are fully aligned with our message at the February 5th meeting as well. Now, moving on to the current matter at hand for tonight, it is the authorization to purchase the wetland credits. I'm very happy in that the price is locked in from over 6 months ago. However, these credits are now being looked at by a number of institutions. Construction is picking up. Wetland credits are hard to come by. And we fear that if we wait any longer, we will miss this opportunity for these wetland credits. So we are going to recommend that we approve authorizing the $83,700 for the necessary wetland credits. But what we are going to do is only put a 10% deposit on it currently. And once we get through all of the permitting phases, at that point, will we make the final payment, which would give us some layer of protection with that. Any questions?
So the 10% deposit, is that refundable? Should something go horribly awry on February 5th?
It is not refundable, but there is an opportunity to perhaps just outright buy it and resell. And prices are only going up as it relates to wetland credits.
I mean, how fast do these things typically move? Like, is this something where if we wait till February 6th, those are most likely going to be gone? Is that how quickly these exchange?
Those that are looking into wetland credits, the frequency of those inquiring about them has picked up significantly to the point where, we're being influenced that it'd be in our best interest to make a decision in the near term or miss that opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
We did land up in that sort of kind of conundrum the last time we went out, right? There were no, Lake County had run out of their credits and we were looking somewhere else. We had to look for somewhere else at a premium price.
That is correct. Yep.
Any other questions?
So we approve this tonight. We're only putting 10% down. So if something happens, I'm hoping for the best here. The most we could be out if things don't come to fruition would just be the 10%.
That is correct. I am more than optimistic that this has to go through. The referendum, as stated, it has to be this project at this site. If this permit doesn't pass, then we would be out the amount allocated within the referendum itself, because it's specific to this location. If that makes sense.
Yes. No, I am like, want this to go through. I just want to make sure that my understanding is clear. Because this is something that I'm going to be approving purchase for, and it's not like
A done deal.
yes. So
Correct. There is some risk with that.
all right, thank you.
And what's the risk if we delay 2 weeks until after the 5th?
The risk is that the wetland credits are no longer available, and if they are, they're at a higher price.
Do you feel lucky?
No, I'm not a risk taker, don't look at me.
Yeah, this is truly gambling in a no gambling situation.
Okay, thanks.
Because wasn't Mike stating the other day that IDOT is buying up all the credits and they're buying it at like 1.5 times the price because they need a ton of them, so they're just buying everything up right now because no credits are left or available? Mike was telling us Christensen at that point, at one of the times he was mentioning it.
That
right?
is correct. It's in the memo.
Gotta have
It's
faith
in the
that,
memo.
that we'll get the village to come through and this thing will really move. We have faith in that, don't we?
Absolutely.
Of course. You're going to work.
I'm looking at Matt over there.
There's been a lot of homework going on.
It will pass. It has to pass. If it doesn't, it's going to be detrimental to this entire community.
Does that mean that we could expect that IDOT would buy credits from us if we couldn't use them?
That's a good idea. That's great.
That
I
is,
don't know if you're in the business of buying and
No,
selling.
I'm not. I'm
I
not
don't know
talking
if
about additional
that's
revenue, just
even legal.
to offset the risk.
Like, no, but what I meant is, I don't know if it's even allowable. I mean,
Yeah.
in that respect, just because not having looked at all the legislation and regulations that we fall under, we have to take, the worst case scenario is we
Okay.
are out of 8370. Rather, But we could make money too if we look optimistic.
Well, we can't make money, you know.
It's a creative
Arbitrage
idea. It's
rules
worth
don't
checking
allow
out.
that, you know?
New revenue
Okay.
stream.
The real question is, do you know anybody at IDOT?
Yeah.
Any other questions regarding the wetlands or anything about planning and zoning, anything regarding the February 5th meeting? Anything regards that, because this is the point of discussion for those things.
All these things are taking some of the shine off the apple. We got that wonderful referendum passed and everyone's
Right.
excited, ready to go.
Community spoke.
We've got this beautiful building that's gonna come up. We're gonna have kids in 2 years in
They
that
did
building.
love our building though. They did like our elevation and the design and stuff.
Well,
So-
the other issue that was addressed at the meeting was the fact that we didn't explain how the kindergarten center would not negatively impact the health, safety, and public welfare.
Yes, Don and Carrie are working on those documentations, and we are going to work.
It's a fun meeting.
We are going to make sure that the documentation is to.
I feel like Dr. Friedman's
If
holding
people,
back.
if people don't like little kindergarten children, then that's the problem. You know, they only enhance the well-being and the welfare of the community.
What opportunity do we have to present material at the February 5th meeting,
Good
if
question.
any?
We will represent
Yeah.
He's re-
at
Abe's
that
ready.
meeting.
Abe
Okay,
is
so
got
it's
this
not just-
thing down.
No,
He's
it-
going to present a
Okay.
really strong case.
In lieu of DLR, myself and Jeff from the Park District, Jeff Fergus, will also be available that day. So we will co-present along with Ms. Patel. I'm sure we'll add commentary as well. Yeah.
And Abe, your meeting
So-
that you're having Wednesday, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Jason.
go ahead.
Are you going to be able to discuss and, I don't know, give them the handwritten or typed up sheet about how we will not impact the health, safety, and
Yeah, verbiage has already been crafted and finalized on that permit application, and that'll be shared with the entire group tomorrow, and we'll
Okay.
go over that again. Just reminding folks that this is nothing new. For a year and a half, we've discussed this, and we've vetted multiple options, and that no one should be surprised with this application.
okay, great.
So just like how we get letters and emails ahead of time before certain issues come up on this board, would it be beneficial for either you, Abe, or Sonali to write up a summary like you have there, stating what we've done, how we've done it, how we've worked with the village? Because I'm not sure all of the trustees know what has been going on for the last 18 years. All the details that we've done.
We are going
how
to
much-
we are going to
Feels like
present that.
18 years.
I know, it feels like a long time, but there's a lot of history there and a lot of, we didn't just come up with this plan on our own and stuff like that, that I think would be beneficial for them to have in front of them ahead of time so that they are aware, so that they're not just, seeing it for the first time when Abe presents it on the 5th.
That is the plan, to have a one-sheet handout. So
Like an
now,
executive summary.
Yeah, just to email them, to every trustee gets that ahead of time so they can
so we
get it in
foresee,
their
yeah,
heads.
Yep, Jason,
Okay.
4 prongs of communication.
I
It'll
mean-
be a one-page memo,
Yep.
our presentation. We would like the village to preface our presentation to talk about how they have partnered with us with this journey. And then lastly, the application itself, the permit application, will have some of that justification in there this time.
And one of the things I just want to clarify, this meeting of planning and zoning was supposed to be held on the 16th, so a week ago. And the deadline to get all our paperwork in, all of it, including our civil engineering drawings and everything, was January 9th. We got all those paperwork in. They had a week and actually 2 weeks because the meeting got postponed. But they did not look at it and tell us that we needed to provide any documentation or anything in any respect. So I just want the community to know that we didn't drop the ball. Had they told us that we were lacking in something or if something was done that not to their satisfaction, we had all the experts and we would have modified our paperwork to their requirements. But nobody ever got back to us to say that, what you have done is not what exactly the language we are looking for. So our papers were submitted on January 9th, the meeting for the meeting on 16th, which got postponed to the meeting on 23rd. And we never heard anything back till we walked into that meeting on Wednesday, all of us. So, but this time they have a meeting on Wednesday to go over everything to make sure everybody is on the same page, along with David Archer from the library and Jeff Fugero from the Park District. And based on that, we'll make sure whatever is needed, we'll get their okays so that we are ready to present on the 5th.
Understood. So the stuff that we're going to present, yes. I'm just thinking about getting
Like the historical
our
summary.
Yeah.
information, our position in front of the trustees before the meeting. Something outside of that, it can be a very big packet that they're going to look at. So here's our chance to get in front of them before the meeting so they can think about it. They can ask questions if something comes up, if they have any concerns. It gives them time to think about it and to, understand where we're at, how we got to where we're at. And
Yeah,
also,
that summary,
more
the
importantly,
draft of that summary
what
will be
happens
shared.
if it doesn't happen? I
We
think
got it.
that's also
We'll
very
do it.
important.
On
too.
Wednesday, we're going to share a draft of that summary
Okay.
to that group for them to take forward.
All right.
Okay.
I would also encourage anybody who's watching here or on YouTube, if community members are concerned, staff is concerned, I would encourage them to go to that meeting or send an email to the village board and share their concerns about seeing this project through. I mean, they have humongous stake in this as well. So I would just leave it at that. But I unfortunately myself cannot attend that night, which is sort of keeping me up at night right now. But I would really encourage people. That's February 5th at 7:30. 7:30 at the village hall?
Seven.
Or 7?
No, 7. It's
Sorry,
7
7 o'clock at the village hall.
Village regular meeting. So, okay. The next is, any more discussions before I go to consent agenda? Okay. So the next is consent agenda items for, which includes board meeting minutes from January 14th, Amex report, expenditure report, kindergarten project, cost log, summer projects, school calendar for 2019-20, persons and the personnel report. Do I have a motion?
Can I ask that the calendar be separated out for a
Sure.
separate vote? Thanks.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda without the school calendar for 2019-20?
I move that we approve the consent agenda items 4.1 through 4.5 and 4.7 as presented.
I second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Wes. Could I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron,
Aye.
George Bavette,
Aye.
Victoria Helander Heiser,
Aye.
Robin Cleek,
Aye.
West Pole and I, Matt Jacobs,
Aye.
Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 7 ayes, 0 nays. Do I have a motion for the school calendar for 2019-20?
I move that we approve the school calendar for 2019-2020 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Robin, seconded by Matt. Can I have a roll call, please?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion, sorry.
So we had 3 draft proposals that were presented to us in middle of December. And the main difference is when you start and when you end. It's basically, we either start as early as the 15th or as late as the 29th, so just 3 weeks difference. The one up for a vote right now is starting on the 22nd, which is like the middle of the start dates. I don't know if we've ever discussed, let me rephrase that. We did not, as a board, really discuss the options and what, anybody thought about that. We had a small, tiny discussion when it was presented, but I don't think we ever had an opportunity to really discuss the merits of the different start times and as well as the other issue that was brought in front of us concerning the calendar. So I want to discuss those items.
Sure.
The difference between starting on the 22nd and the 15th is 1 week. But when I look at it, it's the separation from the high school start date that makes it, to me, less attractive. So the fact that we're starting 2 weeks later than the high school effectively, in the end, gives families who have kids in both the high school and the elementary district 2 less weeks that they could use to be together on vacation were not. The difference between starting on the 22nd versus the 15th, in terms of losing a week of summer holiday, but you gain it back on the back end in the spring. So to me, that's a net zero gain or loss in a sense of starting later or earlier. To me, the net gain overall is that families who have kids in both high school and elementary have an extra 2 weeks that they could then use to plan to be together on some holiday if they choose to. Starting on the 22nd precludes them from doing that.
After,
Wait a minute.
just to let you know, after that brief discussion we did have at the last meeting, and you brought up the same issue, Mark and I received quite an avalanche of negative feedback from our staff. They were universally, practically, from what we could tell, opposed to starting any earlier in August.
Yeah, so
The main reason that they share is that the seems like summer is getting cut into, and we know that high schools are doing that. But the overwhelming majority of staff that worked on that and got back to us were quite concerned about that proposal of starting any earlier.
So when these were presented as a draft, Lynn also presented that concern from the staff when you did the survey
Right.
of what the preference were.
Right.
And I guess I did not see it as a overwhelming majority wanting the later start.
It
was
was
a
after
majority.
your comments from the last meeting,
Yeah,
to
so
be
then
honest.
I understand that. The
We
ones
had
that did not want.
we had two schools write us where they wrote as an entire faculty, on behalf of an entire faculty, to please continue with the calendar that was voted on, and the majority of teachers were in favor of. So
That was just.
it's a stronger opinion now than it was then.
Understand, that was a preference that they provided. I guess we're the ones that have the responsibility to make that determination on that vote,
Absolutely.
and that's what we're doing now. I guess that's where, as a board, it's where do we put the preference? Is it the staff? Is it to accommodate families who have kids in both district? Where do we go with that? So,
Well, the high school, the motivation to that start at the high school is to finish finals by winter break. We just went
Understood.
through that.
I-
We have nothing hanging over our head putting us in that kind of position, other than trying to get families have their kids together as much as they possibly
Yeah,
can.
correct. And
But
to
this
me-
is plenty of notice to have people plan their vacations.
it's not lack of notice, it's not any of that. We're just removing 2 weeks that families can use. I'm not saying they will use those extra 2 weeks together. Those are just 2 extra weeks that they can then use to plan. It takes that off the table for families that have kids in both districts. So,
But it's really the high school that took that off.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
if
they
they're
did
going to
that.
be
We
together, they
didn't
have
do
to be
that.
back by the high school start date anyway.
correct.
It would have to be the high school pushing their start date later in order for us to give them 2 more weeks
No,
together.
because the high school starts earlier, you're right, that's the first date. So families that have both will have to be back in the area on that date.
Right.
Correct. So that doesn't impact the loss of the time. It's at the end of the school season, that's where the 2 week comes into play, because in effect, the elementary ends 2 weeks after the high school is done.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So it's not the start date that's impacting it. It's the fact that since we start later, we end later. So now, yes, they have to be back in district earlier, and they have to stay in district longer for a net impact of 2 weeks that they can't use. So that's one of my concerns, and I don't think we've really had a chance to talk about that. So I guess you guys know my feeling about that. The second part is the no school days that happen to fall on a religious holiday. I'm having a hard time thinking that this was primarily because we can't staff our schools. And my reasonings are as follows. For as long as I've been on the board, they've been designated as no school because of a religious holiday. It's been designated that way up until and including the draft on December 13th. To now come and say, oh, we're going to remove the designation of religious holiday, to me is, I don't think holds water, because it's still, from historical reasons and why we're doing it, is still there. Now, the reason that we can't staff it 20%, when I looked at all the surrounding, or a lot of the surrounding districts, I did look at all of them, we are not the only district that has these holidays. At the same time, there are many districts that don't have these days as no school days. So I can't imagine that our districts and a handful around us are so unique in our staffing that we can't staff it, yet there are many others in the area, in Lake County and in northern Cook County, that don't have these days off, but are able to staff it. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is we also kind of glazed over what we had all seen in the last couple months. We saw over 40 emails from folks asking for another day to be put on the calendar for culture, religious reasons, whatever they may be. It is my position that it's going to be very hard. We talked about this all the time. We have 40, 50 some languages spoken in this district. We've got, so many different countries represented in our district. It's going to be impossible to satisfy every request to put a religious or cultural, significant day on the calendar. So my position is, let's take them all off and let folks determine when they want to take their kids out for whatever reason they choose to. If we've got, so it's almost like we can solve both problems, starting a little bit later. We remove these days, and then we add them to the back end. Hey, it solves our problem. The only days that would be on here would be spring break and winter break. We get rid of the September, October day and the April day. Done. Now we are really neutral, as Mark had said earlier, and we're not, favoring any one culture or religion over any other. That's all I'd say, which is quite a bit.
I think we brought this to you because we know we have a staffing problem on those days. It just.
We hardly have subs to cover our
Yeah,
regular
we talked to
days.
them, get
Just,
some numbers
we
from
are,
Lynn, I think.
there's a universal sub shortage right now. And just on a regular day, Jason, where teachers are
I
having
don't doubt that.
to, give up their
Yet I
plan
look at
periods.
other districts
And
and I
on
don't.
a regular day, 20%.
We might not be like
We're
other
not
districts.
like every other
Yeah.
district. Not all districts have the same composition
I
of
understand.
staff.
I don't
This
expect us
just
to be the
happens
same.
to
I'm
be
just
ours.
surprised that ours and a handful in this area have that problem of not being able to staff, where there are many others in the same area that I would think would attract the same pool of teachers, don't have that problem.
Can't worry
Everybody-
about them, we worry
It-
about
it's a-
us.
It's a question we
Everybody,
can't
everybody would
answer.
be fighting for the same substitutes.
Right.
And the substitute pool is minimal. We talk with
It's a
HR,
crisis.
we've looked at this both sides. We have no skin in the game. We're trying to do this from what we see is a logical perspective of, if we cannot have the best people in front of our children every day, well, and we know a couple of days are going to be extremely difficult, we make those kinds of decisions where we're not going to put children in front of, put people in front of our children who we don't think are the best. And this is not to denigrate our substitute pool by any stretch, but on any given day,
We
a
just
couple of
don't have
days
that.
ago, we were scrounging. Everybody was subbing.
Right.
The principals were sending out notes. This is just a normal.
That was just a normal
thing
day.
that anybody
Right.
got, anyone who could fill in. People were giving up and doing double duty. This is a fairly regular thing nowadays. Some of it is based on the statewide teacher shortage. It's real. It's not just in the Springfield area and Collinsville and places like that. It's up here. And so it's real. And because it's real, it's trickled down into our ability to cover classrooms with substitutes. It's a real problem. This really
I don't
would
doubt that. I think
combine.
that's a bigger issue other than to say that that's the
Right.
the main reason for these days.
But many
a big
districts
part
do
of it.
call these days non-attendance days. That's the official designation that the state allows.
Yes.
We were doing that as, I think, out of sense of habit over the years. And the other piece is, there's a process that Lynn went through with the Teachers Association and representatives that these calendars were an outcome. We had to come up with a calendar that we thought was most reflective of what our needs are for next year and make a recommendation. As you know, we aren't wishy-washy. We're going to give you a recommendation. You can play with that and you could alter it or you can vote yes or no, but we need to get this thing going. People are bothering us daily as to when that calendar is coming out.
Right.
Part of the reason we're here tonight in
That was
the
the main
snowstorm
reason.
is to get
Gotta
that
get this
out.
calendar done.
Because Bobby, how many calls do you get on a fairly regular basis? Do we have the calendar yet? So we're trying to do our duty and support the community and give people information. We certainly are not trying to determine one holiday is more important than another.
I personally think if there's going to be any shift in start and end dates that's that significant, we should almost give like a full year's advance notice, not for this next calendar year, but it might come up the following year or something like that. And I'm not saying I would be in favor of it then, but I know people that already have their summer vacations planned, including some teachers. And if we have to be back on the 15th, then they have to be back like the 12th. So I think that's getting a little bit risky to put those plans, make such a large shift right now. Not that it's so sudden, it's still 7 months away and it feels like it's an eternity away, but I think, you know, the other thing too is if this is what they preferred by, I think it was more than 50% and the other two calendars split the other 50%. I mean, I would like to support the teachers in the ways that we
It's
can.
something
that are,
that's fairly easy
yeah,
to support.
right. I mean, so
Not
that would be my preference.
discounting your comments, because I think your comments are very valid. The goal is to try and have everybody home with their kids on the same day. That's why we talk to Libertyville High School and Vernon Hills High School about closing schools.
Right.
We don't want the high school to be in session and the elementary kids to be home. We talked about that the other night. Let's do this together. So I totally get where Jason's coming from as far as trying to bring that beginning of the school year piece, you know, a little more in sync. It just, like you said, Robin, really hard to do and needs some notice.
Is there a reason why we don't have President's Day as the first makeup day this time?
They didn't
The
want it
teachers
this
asked
time.
for that,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
so.
I know, I really like that
Looking
we
out
have
the
the,
window.
It's a
I'm-
moot
it's-
point this
Yeah. Joe and I
I know, I
both,
really like that
Joe
we
and
have
I
those
both
days
have
in
not
those
had
days.
this
Yeah, I just-
experience. We
yeah.
generally did our
Waiting till
calendars
March and then
and
throwing
submitted
them all
it to
at
the
the
board.
end.
We didn't have as much input.
No.
And there was very little change from year to year. And frankly, hardly ever got a call in Libertyville. I don't know how it was with you, Joe.
Same.
But, you know, we're here. Hey, we're part of this district. If we debate this, we'll get in on it. We'll give you our 2 cents.
So with this calendar, we're not using any of the holiday that we did the last 2 years as makeup, is that correct?
We're
Right.
using only the
Kashmir
Kashmir
Pulaski.
Pulaski.
Yeah.
They didn't want the President's
see
Day.
that
That
one.
was about 70+% majority of the teachers wanted to keep their President's Day as a holiday.
my guess is it's very hard for them to find childcare for their own kids on
It's
that day.
tough.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the main reason, Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the
it's
way-
very
Where a
tough.
lot of people don't get Pulaski Day off anyway,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking at the old one from this, I am looking at the old one from December, but it doesn't,
Yeah,
says
in
the first
December,
makeup day
right.
is June 12th.
Right.
Yeah, the back end of the calendar is complicated because of summer school, summer camps that kids
Okay.
attend, that even though we always tell the camp organizations, give us a little time, you don't know what the weather's gonna bring and stuff like that, they're generally ready to stoke it up the first Monday after school is out.
They make money when they
Oh, we get it, we understand, we get it, we get that.
Okay, anybody else have any other concerns? Are people
ma'am.
ready to vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else have any comments to make for next year's or something for a consideration?
I think
for
we'll
later?
share with Lynn, Jason, your comments that maybe a little earlier heads up in those discussions with the teachers. That's true, yeah. You're not leaving town, are you? You can come back
I'm not going
and
anywhere.
sit where Mike was and give us your calendar opinions.
Help me, Mike.
If Mike will get out of the chair.
But Mike has a hard time giving up the mic.
Mike likes the chair.
Okay. We bequeath the calendar to you, Pete.
I bet he can't wait now.
Okay. Can I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron,
Nay.
George Savette,
Aye.
Vicky Helander Heiser,
Aye.
Robin Cleek,
Aye.
Wes Pole and I, Matt Jacobs,
Aye.
Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 6 ayes, 1 nay. We have action items, which was, the first one was the resolution abating the working cash fund of the district. Abe, you want to just mention that, a couple sentences before we go to the motion?
Sure. This is the DSEB bonds again, the non-referendum bonds, the 1.5 million to address capital maintenance projects, which is for next summer as well as the subsequent summer. It allows for the transfer of funds from working cash to O&M and then finally to capital projects from which we'll expend our funds for these projects.
Anybody have any questions?
I can't, this board docs isn't letting me open it right now. But when I was, thank you, when I was reading this over at home, there was one word that stuck out to me, if I'm remembering it correctly, and that it was permanent. So does that simply mean we're not putting those funds back, or does that mean going forward, this will be a permanent item of moving that same amount each year?
That's a really good question. It's a permanent one-time 1.5 million.
Okay.
It will be permanently spent once you spend it.
Well.
And
That's good to know.
then it come out right.
You don't
Yeah,
have-
but no, I get it, Yeah.
You don't have a magic thing where you can just keep spending it?
I just didn't know.
Your peers.
Okay, thank you, you cleared that up.
Yeah.
Good enough.
We can 1.5 million back.
Can I have a motion?
I can't read anything. right
I make a motion to approve the resolution abating the working cash fund of the district. Can I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Sonali, seconded by Bess. Any discussion? Could I have a roll call, please?
Sonali Patel,
Aye.
Matt Jacobs,
Aye.
Wes Pole and I, Robin Cleek,
Aye.
Victoria Helander Heiser,
Aye.
George Savette,
Aye.
Jason Tron.
Aye.
Motion passes 7 ayes, 0 nays. Next is the approval of purchase of the .93 credits for the total cost of $83,700 from the Mill Creek Mitigation Bank for the Hawthorne Kindergarten School project. Abe had already gone over it. Anybody have any discussion or any questions that they have thought of since then?
So, are they going so fast that we can't wait till next Tuesday or Wednesday morning? Do you think they're going that fast? I mean, we can still give approval, but I mean, are you gonna act on this first thing tomorrow? I know it's only
Yeah.
10%.
Well, there's no guarantees with anything,
Right.
right? So
I'm
it's
just-
somewhat of a gamble. It's a calculated risk. We do know that IDOT
Right.
is taking these up pretty quickly. I don't see a reality where we don't proceed with this project.
I don't
Yeah.
either. I'm just,
Optimistic.
I'm optimistic. I've done like I said, done the homework.
And we can certainly look into reissuing those credits to another entity if
Okay.
we are unable to use
That's
it.
fine.
Let's just jump right in here, and pretend it's all going.
Anybody else? Do you have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education purchase .93 credits for a total cost of $83,700 from the Mill Creek Mitigation Bank for the Hawthorne Kindergarten Center School project.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by Bess, seconded by Robin. Any discussion? Could I have a roll call, please?
Jason Tron,
Aye.
George Favette,
Aye.
Victoria Heelander Heiser,
Aye.
Robin Cleek,
Aye.
West Point I, Matt Jacobs,
Aye.
Sonali Patel.
Aye. Motion passes 7 ayes, 0 nays. That's it. We don't have anything. I just wanted to make sure we have. Okay, we have, the meeting is
For
February,
those who haven't met our new superintendent.
who hasn't met him?
Well, some people maybe not.
He has another
Meet 'em
speech for
again.
tonight.
Oh, no, no.
No more speech.
We already told him no more.
We're gonna try to introduce you again, but I guess.
No, we would like to introduce, Dr. Hannigan is here to attend our board meetings. And thank you so much for coming through the snow and the bad weather. But that's it. And we had some couple of new audience members
Children of a board member.
And a kindergartner.
and a kindergartner.
Yes.
And they have some inside information too. See, coming to board meetings pays off.
Yeah. Julie, you need to confiscate the phone so they can't be calling everybody and saying, hey, we're gonna have a snow day on Wednesday.
Right, that's what my kids do.
Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Come to school tomorrow.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Wait, are we not? There's no topics for future agenda or anything?
No, we can have it.
I'm not saying I have an idea. I just felt like the question. I just felt like the opportunity should have been there.
Just in case. someone-
You're in the minutes now.
So any topics? Anything that needs to come up? Right now, it's all kindergarten center, 24/7.
Well, I hate to break the deadlock here, but there is a topic that Sonali and I had chatted about, and I pushed her, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Joe. I would like to get us moving on naming our school. You know, it's referred to as a lot of different things. I think I mentioned it to you, Wes, or Robin also, that let's get a real name for that building.
Can we
And
put it up for sale? Like the naming?
that's a way to do it, a student
American
contest.
Family.
Let us come up with
CDW
something, yeah.
Kindergarten Center?
You know, the naming rights go big time, like the United Center gets millions
go. Hey,
for the naming rights.
This is what she's talking about.
We're gonna-
Revenue streams.
We're gonna start the discussion in ad team and see if anybody
Yeah,
has
Yeah,
ideas. But
so.
Might be fun also to
guys
poll
should
the
be thinking
community and
about
see
it,
if
too.
they have any ideas.
Yeah, I think we'd like to open that up and maybe
Yeah.
take the focus off of the negative stuff behind the scenes that's been going on and,
Yeah.
and getting plans and committees approving it to, hey, this is going to be our Center for Kids. It's going to be really something special for kindergartners. Not a lot of districts have that.
Right.
So let us come up with something and run it by you in the next couple of months, and
Or a
we'll have
couple
an official
options.
name.
It'll be
They can
fun.
Vote online.
I thought it was Bloom Elementary.
Let the kids.
I thought it was just the kindergarten center. Just kidding.
Jason Tron Memorial Kindergarten Center.
What haven't you
He's
told
going off the board, but he's not.
Not dead yet.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Please.
George made the motion. Do I
Yes,
have a
I'll
second?
make it again if I have to.
Good job, George.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion by George, seconded by Wes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nah.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
George.